It's Goodbye, My Friend with Bridget Armadillo. You're listening to the Social Impact Show with me, Samm Marshall. This is what we do. Mondays to Fridays, we have great conversations with people that I believe are fanatical about driving just how we see the world and how we engage with things. And not just in the context of South Africa, but Africa as well. And maybe you know this, but in today's business landscape, profitability and social impact can no longer exist in separate silos. Companies that integrate purpose into their core business strategies are not only more sustainable, but also drive economic and social progress. Now, at the forefront of this movement on the continent of Africa is Tiekie Barnard, founder and CEO of Shared Value Africa and Shift Impact Africa. Through the Shared Value business model, Tiekie and her team are helping organizations unlock growth by addressing pressing societal challenges, from gender equality in academic institutions to environmental sustainability. But what does it truly mean to create profit with purpose? Tiekie joins me in studio. Tiekie, good morning, and thank you for taking the time and gracing us with your presence.
No, I need to say thank you, Sam. And hello to all your listeners. And you know, I love talking about Africa, actually, because I want to say to all of your listeners out there, and we need to believe it, Africa is where we're building the global future.
I believe so.
Because we see what's happening in America, we see how Europe is struggling. We have the capabilities because, as we all know, we've got the youth dividend on our side.
You took the words out of my mouth. This is going to be the continent with the largest young population in the world.
Absolutely. And when you look at it, and we were talking a little bit earlier on, if you look at it from a tech perspective as well, what's happening, on the Africa continent and specifically in East Africa with Kenya. I mean, they are streets ahead from a tech perspective. But what I want to say is that it's the youth dividend that we have. We've got, all of the resources. If we look at our extractives that we have, we've got the capabilities as well. We've just got to believe in ourselves that we are going to be the future global leaders.
But to add to that, Tiekie, is that I think we are starting to, right? Because you are somebody that is constantly traveling. I mean, you're constantly on the continent. I'm sure if I just followed you, I'd find you in some little side cafe eating jollof rice and having different conversations. It seems to me that the leaders on the continent are starting to understand their power. I've seen some of the presidents saying we are no longer coming 12 of us to meet one person. Africa is a powerhouse. We've seen investment from the BRICS partners. We've seen, for example, in Kenya, the new highway that was built there. And so there's an infrastructure understanding, there's an understanding of relationships, what collaboration looks like. Is that what you're experiencing? Or are we still infancy?
No, I think I am experiencing it, but there's still a lot that needs to happen, Sam. There really is. I think the challenge that we have on the Africa continent is that we've got a lot of old leaders.
Yes.
So if you think about it, how does a 91-year-old leader relate to a 20-year voter? Are you with me? So for me, but we are seeing some young leaders coming through. You know what I mean? That's below the age of 80. Let me put it that way, or below the age of 70. So
you want to tell me that 72-year-old is a youngster?
Well, what can we do? You know what I mean? Because
in comparison,
in comparison. But I think there's some. In Botswana, great story to tell now with their new leadership and great vision as well from that perspective. We look at Ghana as well. Also. New leadership in Ghana. So even with Tanzania and the female president, and with Namibia and the female president, so there is a shift. But there's still a lot of the old folks that we need to almost like shift out of the way, I want to say.
Or at least find a way for them to, and I know it's also a cliched word, but kind of some kind of mentor-mentee, collaborative engagement that says, if you read what Dr. Robin Whittaker talks about trust-based partnerships, that even though I'm younger than you, I have stuff to bring to the table and not have a talk-down approach where we know everything and you should only listen. I think that's going to we need that to foster proper collaboration between these age groups.
Yeah, I think the big shift that we need is that mind shift. You know, from
but you guys are doing it at Share Value.
Yeah. I'm talking about leadership now.
But you do engage with a lot of leaders.
We do engagement with leaders. Yeah, because we're trying to shift those minds. You know, to try and say that. Look at it, Sam. Whatever we did in the past is not working. So systemic change has to happen because whatever we're doing at the moment is not bringing the results that we need from a Africa perspective, from a global perspective, So for me is how do we shift those leadership mindsets? And this is, yes, you're 100% right. That is so much part of our work to try and shift those leadership mindsets through all of our engagement platforms that we have. But we want to start with the young ones as well, because we want to, when we work with entrepreneurs as Shared Value Africa, for us it's important for them to understand that they have a responsibility to bring about change as well, that it's not only about the money. As you said earlier on, profit with purpose.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Yeah.
And where does one start? And I know you're an expert in this because I think you don't have a social life. I think this is all you do. I wouldn't be surprised if your husband's name is Social or Shared.
Shared Value Africa. That is my husband's name, Shared Value Africa.
I won't be surprised if that's the only thing you do. But you do think a lot about it, and you do have, I think, a beautiful perspective where the people around the table are not the same people that you're talking to. So you're getting input data from so many different aspects, apart from the fact that you develop reports, you work with some of the biggest organizations in the world who are also thinking about these things. How do we foster, can we talk to everybody at once? Because I find that sometimes we have these beautiful conversations where we need to talk to young people. We need to, have a shift change. But who do we talk to first, and how do we talk to them, and when do we talk to them, in order to make sure that everybody's coming up at the same time? Because you can be in the trap where I'm talking to one group for too long, miss the other group as they go through their changes. By the time you shift to them, what you're trying to talk to them is no longer relevant. So how do you as a team, you as a leader, think about the quality of engagement, quality of conversation, but who do we speak to first? Or how do we speak to everybody at the same time?
Yeah, I think that's always a challenge, because speaking to everybody at the same time, you have a different value system, I've got a different value system, I was brought up differently, you from a different culture, I'm a different, so how do we do that? What we look at though, because remember our Shared Value Africa, we focus on business, even though our work focus on entrepreneurs and empowering women and leadership, but leadership makes that first decision as an organization that what we are going to do as a business, we are going to be profitably addressing societal issues through the core business. And once leadership has made that decision consciously, then you can start looking at how does it filter into an organization. Like I'll give you our prime example from a shared value perspective, because it's entrenched in their strategy, is Safaricom from Kenya. So Safaricom from Kenya is a really big organization. They contribute, I think the last time I looked, 5% to the Kenyan GDP.
And I remember the initial story when we talked about their first couple of years. And now today they're such a big player.
Yeah, because now they've obviously got a Africa strategy. Because what they did, if you think about it, an example, and I want to give it to your listeners so that they can understand what we mean when we talk about shared value. So we all know in the old days, before we had cell phones, how did we get money to our gogos and to my mom? I had to go and find somebody that can take it to them, and then I had to trust that person that they're actually going to get the money to her. So then M-Pesa came online, which was an initiative between Safaricom and Vodafone at the time. Now, as we're sitting here today, Safaricom and M-Pesa has actually changed Kenyans' lives forever. So
Yeah.
what is the social impact of that? Okay, are they making money? Yeah, they're making money because people use their services. But you speak to any Kenyan today, and you'll know that they're on M-Pesa because their salaries can be paid in there. They can pay their accounts into it. I was speaking to somebody now. I was in Kenya last week, and he was saying before M-Pesa, he used to have to take time off work to go and pay his kids' school fees. Now you just put it straight through through M-Pesa. So if you look at that from a shared value perspective, is that an organization like Safaricom was profitably addressing a societal issue.
I was going to ask you about that word because you've used it twice now, profitably.
Yeah.
And making impact profitably.
Yeah, absolutely. So they profitably address a societal issue of people that didn't have access to a financial services system. Now people have records, they can save money, they can transfer money to each other without any problem. All you need is that M-Pesa, that M-Pesa number and that M-Pesa account.
And I think, Tiekie, Africans don't know how studied M-Pesa is around the world now, because it is really become such a benchmark around the world. I mean, whether you're in America, in Europe, they talk about the M-Pesa model. And I've seen the M-Pesa presentation so many times. I remember Rihanna Rousseau, about 6 years ago, she does this trends thing every year.
Yeah.
And I went to one of them and she talked about M-Pesa, how M-Pesa is changing the life of Kenyans. And it was just mind-blowing that innovation was born and bred on Africa, on the continent, deals with a real-life problem, and has literally changed the lives of so many people. But what you guys do at Shared Value, and yet again, I'm fortunate because I'm on your mailing list. I know how much work you guys do, from the amount of conversations that you have, whether that's women in education, institutional reform, advocacy work, entrepreneurship work, whether it's looking at greening the environment. I mean, you guys have big heads because you're thinking about a lot of stuff. Yeah. And then what I love is that you bring in, it's not this hypothetical conversation anymore. It's practical people on the ground who have case studies, who understand what's going on, and that's the conversation and the dialogue that you're fostering.
Yeah, so Sam, thank you for that, and for that little, for recognizing what we're doing. And I think
you've got one coming up now on the 13th of March.
Yeah, the African Universities Gender Equality Forum. So if your listeners want to go in and listen to that, we're talking about gender equality in the academic world. What is happening
huge
very big issue. What is happening at our academic institutions?
Yeah.
So and we do that we bring together twice a year, and we try and engage with universities across the continent. But which brings me back to the question you were asking. So for us, from our focus perspective, we focus on entrepreneurs because, remember, as we said, we're building the global future here. So what do we have to do? We've got to support our entrepreneurs. We have a responsibility, Mr. CEO, that you've got to look at the programs that you're running. Programs that you're running, because you have to support the young ones to go and create that sustainable Africa that we're all talking about. So that's the entrepreneurship focus. And through that, we've just now it was last Friday, we had the African Entrepreneurship Forum, and we focused on vocational training.
I saw it.
Yeah. So vocational training, when you think about it, I mean, we just had everybody got their matric results at the beginning of the year, and now everybody wants to go to university. University is not for everybody. It is not.
And we've had that conversation here as well with expert. It's not for everybody. And I think we just have to be real. Some of our kids are not cut out for it either. And some parents just, unfortunately, your son is not going to be that person, or your daughter. Yeah,
but vocational training, people look down on vocational training, and there are so many sitting here. I think when you unpack vocational training, there are probably about 51 different jobs that you can do if you go to a tech and you teach vocational training. I want to say to the listeners as well, one of the biggest jobs in the future is going to be a driver.
Yes.
Okay? Why? Because somebody said to me, why? Well, if you think about it, e-commerce. All we do is we order things off our phones.
Yeah.
We order it online. Who's got to deliver it? Somebody has to deliver it. So
Well, I know Elon is busy with autonomous driving, so I don't know, AI driven.
Yeah.
But I hear you. I mean, they're still years away from getting to that point where it will be in every corner of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And also for me, when you think about Africa itself, what is our challenge here? We don't manufacture enough of our products on the Africa continent. We buy it from China, we buy it from Europe, so we need to encourage vocational training because
I love that actually, I love that. I met a guy, I must tell you the story. I met a guy, he was my Uber driver, and he, in his off season, on season, he's a waiter on the Disney cruises, where he makes a lot of money in dollars. And when he's off season, he's a Uber driver, right? But he's gotten to the point, he's a very smart guy. He's gotten to the point now where he owns like 7, 8, 9 properties.
Yeah.
He's bought a bunch of other cars.
Yeah.
And he's not counted as a businessman in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
But here's a guy with 7, 8 properties, multiple cars, employing other drivers, and his main source of income is the Disney he does a waiter on the ship, takes that dollars, doesn't spend it, come back here, keeps on buying properties, and is now a landowner and is a landlord. And you're right, we don't think of these things, we don't think it's possible because I think for whatever reason we caught up with the lawyer, the doctor, and the...
Yeah, but that comes from a colonial mindset.
Yes, it does.
Okay? Comes from that colonial mindset where that's what we have to do. So the thing is, and I look at myself, and I know your listeners can't see me, but I'm from the older generation. So the older generation had that so entrenched from a societal perspective that you have to go to university.
And they even look down on you if your brother's a driver.
Exactly. So what we have to do is, that's another mind shift that have to happen, and very much so with the older generation as well, because our kids, we set the scene for our children, regardless of what anybody thinks out there. Who do our children follow? They follow their parents. And they see that we look down on vocational training, or we look down on the plumber and the electrician.
And yet without them, our lives would be a disaster.
Exactly.
And every dystopian movie I've ever seen, the most valued person is the one who knows how to build.
Yes, exactly.
And if you look at any zombie post-apocalyptic movie, if you don't have a plumber or somebody who knows how to build or an engineer, you're stuffed.
Yeah, and yet our mindset always, leans toward that book knowledge, as we call it. And the thing is, when you think about it, when you go from a vocational training perspective, if you go to a TVET college, you can step out of there and you can start your business because you've got the practical experience. When you come out of university for 3 years, you've got the book experience, but you've got no other experience,
As an organization, as we wrap up, as an organization and an institution, and I'd love to invite you back for us to continue these conversations, you are spending so much time now on the continent, facilitating these dialogues, looking at solutions. You've put together projects with the World Bank, amongst others of your partners. I'm going to ask something for me. I don't know if it's a silly question. Is there such a thing as African solutions for African challenges? Or is poverty, not just poverty, a global issue? Is youth unemployment not just a global issue? Because for the longest times, I found it quite interesting that politicians used to say, well, as South Africa, we have a unique set of challenges, and so therefore there's only an African solution for an African problem. And yet, as somebody who travels a lot, poverty kind of looks the same. Gender-based violence feels the same in other countries, the same issues. Lack of opportunity, lack of access looks and feels the same to me, but I'm not an expert. Your thoughts? Yeah,
it's quite a loaded question, I have to say, Sam. Yeah. But I think that poverty is the same everywhere. Are you with me? If I don't have food to eat, I don't have food in my tummy, I don't have a roof over my head.
It doesn't matter whether you're African or Latino.
It doesn't matter where you are. You can be anywhere in the world, you know what I mean, and face that problem. But I think what we have to do from an Africa perspective is that we're still not as united. Look at the passport thing that we're waiting for from an Africa perspective. We've been waiting for that since 1969. Okay, where are we now? That. We still don't have it. Wow. So for me, it's also, how do we unite as Africans, because we are not, and this is what I always say to everybody in our world, in our shared value world, we're not in competition with anybody. What we need to do is we need to collaborate to bring about the change that we need. And yes, we can create the Africa. M-Pesa was an Africa solution.
Okay.
You know, for
sure.
Africans.
Yes.
So for me, we can create those solutions for ourselves without. But the thing is, you speak to any young entrepreneur. He wants to export to Germany, or he wants to export, you know what I mean, to the UK.
Yeah.
What about exporting to Nigeria? Or what about exporting to Tanzania? You know, intra-Africa trade for is so important. But I think
very interesting what you're
we
saying.
have been so brainwashed. With that, what's outside of Africa is so much better than what we have here.
Yeah.
You know, and we need to, and this is what we're pushing for all the time. This is where we're building the global future.
Ma'am, as we wrap up, on the 13th of March, you got an event. Where can people go to log on? Is there space? Is it open to everyone?
It's open and free to anyone. If you go to www.svai.africa, go to events, and then just see the events that's there as well. If you're in Johannesburg in person, come to the JSE, but you have to register on the 28th of March. We'll be talking about gender equality and gender-based violence and harassment in the workplace.
Yeah, but also all the reports and the stuff you've worked on is on your website.
It's on our website.
Yeah. There's lots of resources there.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, if you want to familiarize yourself with what shared value, the concept of creating shared value is about, what we're doing with entrepreneurs, what we're doing with women, join us, join our community and come to www.svai.africa. I haven't even spoken about Jammy Trade. We'll speak about that on another time.
We'll invite you back for that.
Yeah, which is just quickly, Sam, it's a platform it's a peer-to-peer trade platform that we've created or that we've developed for young entrepreneurs to be able to cross borders, to trade and create new markets.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we should definitely. we do a good news story every day. I think we need to highlight that as a good news story for Africa. Tiekie Barnard, we're definitely bringing you back. That's the CEO and founder of, she's got so many hats, but Shared Value Africa, which is SVA, and then they've got Shift Impact Africa. Go to their website, check it out. I'm telling you, they're amazing South Africans, problem solving, building solutions, and all we've got to do is just find it, look for it.
Tune in to the Social Impact.